Dear friends, it is indeed a true honor for me to address you today as we commemorate the atrocities committed against the Yazidi people 7 years ago. Atrocities that are still etched in our collective memory. Atrocities that have led to unimaginable level of suffering for the Yazidi community. As you are very well aware, hundreds of thousands of Yazidis were forced to flee their homes, with many still unable to return to the land of their cradle. Thousands of Yazidi girls and women became the victim of sexual violence and enslavement, and some still are. Thousands were brutally killed and many remain missing. And as the entire world is consumed by the COVID crisis, we sometimes risk, as an international community, losing sight of other issues much more fundamental significance. It is therefore all the more important that we come together today in commemoration of the many victims of the genocide committed by Daesh against the Yazidi people. And I especially emphasize the word genocide, as the Netherlands Parliament recently recognized that the atrocities committed by Daesh against the Yazidi people in 2014 indeed constitute a genocide. Remarkably, the Netherlands is only one of the first countries to do so, and I call upon other countries to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, the Netherlands is and will remain committed to the plight of the Yazidi people. This is one of my principal tasks here as ambassador in Iraq. But it will be difficult to do my work with the right level of understanding without having had the chance to see the places where the atrocities against the Yazidi people actually took place, and where organizations supported by the Netherlands and others are working on accountability, on stability, and the creation of economic prospects, in view of providing building blocks for a sustainable future for the Yazidi people of Iraq. Therefore, from the very first day I stepped into my office in Baghdad, I felt a strong desire and a need to visit Sinjar as soon as the COVID situation permitted. And during my first year in office, I visited Yazidi people in the Kurdistan region and elsewhere in Iraq. I listened to their terrible stories of the recent past. I learned about their plight of today and their worries for the future. For all sorts of reasons, however, security, COVID, otherwise, it took much longer than I wanted to actually visit Sinjar and its surroundings itself. But recently, however, I was able to do so. In fact, I returned only a few days ago. And I'd like to share with you, among friends, the heartbreak I felt. It is 7 years after the genocide, and still very clearly that the Yazidi community is still gravely suffering the consequences of the Daesh atrocities which remain visible throughout Sinjar. The consequences of the unspeakable past are still so very present today. Even though Sinjar is more or less functioning as a small city, being there one can only feel that many are not there, that the lively place it once was is not yet or no longer the same. Whether it's the market which feels sleepy and half deserted, or the empty streets and houses which clearly contained more people before than now, or the wide lands all around Sinjar that are hardly being plowed or used to produce the agricultural products Sinjar was once famous for. But the two places that hit me hardest were Kocho and Solah. In Kocho, I was received by Najaf Jassor. He told me how he lost 9 family members in one day. Moreover, he showed me around in the place where it happened. A school building, now no longer a place where children run, laugh, and learn, but rather a chilling place of remembrance, so that we will never forget. The same school building where the women and children of Kocho were rounded up on the first floor and saw their fathers, brothers, and sons taken away by Daesh to be murdered. But ladies and gentlemen, there is really nothing that can prepare you for the mass grave just outside Solah. It is here where the mothers were taken, a dusty and windy place on the outskirts of a village in the desert. A kind of pit of an old fish farm, maybe 30 by 20 meters, sand in it and sand all around it. No special markings, just a big pit. It is here where Daesh, dumped the 92 mothers and buried them alive. As I was standing there together with our friends of the International Commission on Missing People, and as I felt the 50-degree sun on my head and the desert wind almost scorching my skin, I tried to think back to that horrible day, also in August, but in 2014, when so many mothers were so brutally murdered. What were their last thoughts? How can humans perform such horrors on other humans? I don't understand. And it just leaves me speechless, even now. In silence, the only thing I could do was to put a wreath of flowers and say my private prayer. But, ladies and gentlemen, as a diplomat, I also see it as my task to look for signs of hope. And there are those. One very powerful one was the 16-year-old Livian that I met some months ago in Khanke camp, and that is full with Yazidi IDPs. With sparkling eyes, she told me that she just got the agreement of the Baba Sheikh to set up a boxing school for girls in the camp. Because my future starts right now, she told me. But things need to happen in Sinjar and surrounding as well, of course. Needless to say, the politicians need to come up with a compromise to fix the security in the area. Without proper security, there will be no return. But the region also needs to restart its agricultural economy. It is for this reason that I went to see the Director of Agriculture of Sinjar. And together we discussed problems and possibilities of bringing Dutch agriculture projects to the region. On this day of solemn remembrance, I will not promise things I cannot deliver. I will, however, give it my very best to see what we, as the Netherlands and as a mighty strong agricultural nation, can do in this respect. Soon I will send some of my agricultural staff back to Sinjar in order to continue these conversations. And let us see together if we cannot plant some seeds, so to speak, for a more sustainable and stable future in Sinjar. But let me conclude. Although the deep wounds are not yet healed and the scars left on the Yazidi community will be forever felt, we, as the international community, will have to continue working towards accountability. But at the same time, we must also look towards the future. It is the world's duty to help the Yazidi people rebuild their lives and provide them with building blocks to create a better future. And for this, we collectively, government, civil society, international and local community, must join efforts and work together. After all the Yazidis went through and still are going through, they owe our continued support. And for this reason, the Netherlands and I myself personally will remain committed to the Yazidi people. I'd like to thank our dear friends at Yazda for this opportunity to express our continued support during this important commemoration event. And to our Yazidi friends, I would like to say, please know that we will continue to stand right next to you as you try to cope with the past while working on a better future. I thank you very much.